Michigan City Area Schools is a wonderful school district. We have one high school, 8 elementary buildings, 2 middle schools.
These solar panels will generate $23 million in savings for our district. We are truly paying it forward for future generations.
Not only is Performance Services provided us with a way to harness a clean, renewable energy source, but they've also placed a valuable teaching tool right here on our campus for us to use. These solar fields allow teachers to teach not only science, but also math and engineering concepts to students by providing us with real-time data of how much each solar panel is collecting in a real-life application that students know is affecting their lives on a daily basis.
We are just excited about the opportunity. We know that Performance Services was just ideal because they have the expertise and they're also committed to working with the local community. So it's just a great time for you to take advantage of it. And so I would say, move forward because it will be a win-win for your school community.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Tony Kuykendall, Business Development Manager for Performance Services.
And my name is Ryan Stout, National Solar Developer for Performance Services.
Today's schools are faced with an unprecedented amount of uncertainty, but more schools are beginning to fight back, looking at ways to utilize solar and LED to help reduce their overall operational usage. Today, we plan to share the Michigan City story and how they have made changes to help create a sustainable future for their district, as well as kind of paying it forward for future generations of their students. As the recipient of the 2018 Governor's Award for Environmental Excellence, Michigan City is excited to share their story, and we hope it sparks some new ideas for your district as well. Michigan City Schools, like many districts, continues to face annual challenges, anything from a declining enrollment to high utility costs to aging facilities. And this is something that we're all very familiar with. Unfortunately, those types of challenges create a lot of pressure on school districts and their budgets. The school board at Michigan City Schools was open to kind of hearing about how solar and LED may be able to help reduce that burden while still providing the same level of curriculum and programs the school has always offered, and all doing this while avoiding any sort of tax increases for their community members. The proposed project, and really ultimately the one that we implemented, is recognized as the largest school solar project in the state of Indiana. This project has actually touched 7 of the district's 12 buildings and made a significant impact. And this project is designed to help pay for itself, utilizing the utility savings generated from the solar and from LED to pay for that project as it goes. And over the 30-year life of the project, it's expected to generate more than $23 million in net savings to Michigan City Schools.
My favorite part of it is showing the community that we want to reduce our costs. Taking out a solar project like this is big, but in the long run, you're going to cut your district's expenditures in labor hours and many different ways.
So lighting in a school can take up anywhere between 30 to 50% of the building's energy consumption, which is a significant draw of power. By switching to LED lighting, you're reducing that demand considerably, which can allow you to utilize a smaller or more efficient solar system to power the building.
Now that you have these in place, you're not spending that money to pay for your utility bill from the utility company. It's basically a cost avoidance until you get the project paid for, and then you're actually making money that can be used in other parts of the school facility or for other things like supporting general fund or whatever it might be.
The main aspects of lighting that are really important for a school are, of course, improvement in quality of life within the spaces. It's easier, more comfortable to exist in, more alert. The energy savings are critical. It pays for itself over time. So while the initial cost can be kind of high, you'll get your money back and then some over the life of the fixtures. And then the last thing is security, especially for outdoor lighting or for community schools where there's a lot of after-hours use of the facility. Having brighter, more consistent, reliable lighting creates a more secure environment.
Maintenance isn't that difficult. We have 7 schools that have the arrays at them. I definitely would recommend doing it. It reduced our electrical usage quite a bit. In 2018, our school district won the governor's award for renewable energy because of the size of our solar array. It's the biggest in the state of Indiana.
The production data provided here is for the calendar year 2019. And this kind of provides basically a building by building look at the predicted and the actual production generated by each solar array. Some of these years are going to be greater than 100% due to the solar resource, and some years it's going to be less than predicted. In 2019, we had considerably more cloudy days than the historical average, which is why we've seen really across our entire fleet, most of our arrays are in the high 80s and low 90s when we look at kind of our predicted production numbers. Next, I'd really like to take a moment to kind of really focus on the financial impact this project has provided for Michigan City schools. A very important part of any school district when they look at these projects is what are the financial benefits and how does it help us long term? So on this slide here, you're going to see 6 different schools, and you can kind of see over the last 3 years of data here, you'll notice a very immediate and lasting effect as you look from the blue line to the orange, kind of the drop in the overall utility costs. This is kind of what we expect when we install not only the LED but also the solar systems at each one of these sites. The good news for Michigan City schools is these results are expected for decades to come. The solar panels are expected to last more than 40 years, so this is really a savings that the district is looking for and planning on for generations to come. And it's a little bit different. The last building that we actually installed solar at was over at their high school. This chart looks a little bit different. There's not as significant of a drop as you saw in the other buildings, but for good reason. At the high school, it's such a large building, our solar array, we're only actually tying into 1 meter of about 5 at the high school. So we're not looking to offset the entire usage. They simply don't have the space to put that many panels on the ground. However, Michigan City Schools was willing to repurpose the back end of one of their parking lots. And kind of a great use of the space because the other option was the school would either have to repair or remove this worn out parking lot, and instead we use this as the new home for their solar array. So still a significant drop in utility usage and a great way to kind of repurpose some property that they weren't currently using. Now this project I mentioned includes both solar and LED, and that's something that was done intentionally. It's really one of our first steps in the process as we evaluate our solar process and our solar design.
Thanks, Tony. To help guide our school districts through the solar process, we designed a 7-step guide to help set proper expectations. The first step is solar assessment. This is where we take the utility data, take the input from the district on typically locations, and then gather any other information that we're looking for to bring back to school some options for their solar installations on site. Through that, then we go through the engineer design. That's where we've pretty much decided this is where the solar is going to go. We're going to go into more detail, go through civil work, and make sure everything's checked and the system can, be installed there. Once we get through that, we go through the financing, the system's approval. Typically, the financing piece is going on along with this. The system's approval process, that's where the board votes and we actually are ready to go move forward. Also through this process, through really step 2 and 3, on the back end, your solar installers typically setting up from the vendor standpoint because most districts want to get this in as soon as possible. So we want to make that step where we're going to get the systems in as soon as we are approved and go to contract. Installation process is typically the fastest. This is the most fun. We can have meetings or checkpoints where the students, or depending on when it's going in, the students or the staff can go out and really watch the process. Sometimes districts will have time-lapse cameras to play. So this is a fun part of the process. Moving into the interconnection, that's where we go live, and that's where we flip the switch and you're creating power. After that, there's typically a 3 to 4 month commissioning process where on our back end side, we're checking the system, making sure it's properly performing. We're looking and seeing how it's working with your facility, if there's any controls or anything that we can change to help make that facility and the solar work better together. And then through the guaranteed energy savings process or statute, we're going to do typically a 20-year performance assurance. And that's a very important piece of this for long-term maintenance and production of the system. So when we're looking with Michigan City, we looked at 3 different options, the ground mount systems, the roof mount, and the carports. We landed on the ground mount for Michigan City just because it's a faster install and it's the most power and the most production and the lowest cost. Roof mount systems can tend to be a little bit more expensive, a little bit more time consuming due to the structural analysis of the system. But those are also very realistic systems to be able to be installed as well. Solar awnings or solar carports, those are just somewhat now coming online. They're going to be your most expensive system, and they're going to have the least amount of payback and the least amount of production. But in some areas of the state, specifically in northern Indiana, if the utility bills are high enough, then the solar carports and awnings work as well. Again, for Michigan City, we chose ground. This has something to do with the net metering laws at the time, but it was our fastest installation. We chose the 7 sites that did have available ground that we could install the solar and get it in before the end of 2017. This is a sample of the helioscope modeling that we use through the engineering design process. This is something you would see if your district is going to look at solar. Typically, most companies use this software. But this is, again, we were able to lay out, get shading reports, and kind of figure out what that system is really going to look like and what it's going to do when it's actually installed. And moving from that, you can see that it's pretty close to what the helioscope shows that we're going to install. So you know from the helioscope what it's really going to look like in the field. Each system comes with monitoring. The monitoring is a very important piece of this. Typically, you'll want to have redundancy in your monitoring. All the inverters come with their own monitoring. Some solar providers typically will put in a utility grade monitoring too in Indiana for your solar renewable energy credits tracking. But monitoring is very useful in the NEED implementation of the NEED curriculum, as well as the kiosk or TVs that are showing the production numbers, typically at the entrances of the buildings where the solar is installed.
Hello, I'm Mary Spruill, Executive Director of the National Energy Education Development Project. NEED is a nonprofit organization with the mission to design and deliver energy curriculum in the K-12 space, engaging teachers and students in training, hands-on curriculum and hands-on kits in the classroom, and creating a deeper understanding of the world around them. Our work with performance services spans several states and brings solar into the classroom. Solar energy is a great way to teach about energy in general, and the solar curriculum that performance services and NEED provide to school districts allows students to look at the forms of energy, the science of energy, the sources of energy we use today and will in the future, how we use that energy for electricity generation, fueling our cars, heating our homes, all of those things. And then also being the most energy efficient we can be and thinking about conservation measures at the same time. Our work in Indiana with the Michigan City area schools allowed us to find teacher champions who were very engaging with the students and students who became champions for solar in the classroom. The performance services designed and installed solar system for the Michigan City area schools allowed for students to use a dashboard to understand the energy that they were producing each day. That dashboard, coupled with the school's going solar unit designed by NEED, allowed students to do research and analysis of the solar systems and the solar output that they had in their local community. NEED and Performance Services have a great partnership to do great things with local schools. The Michigan City area schools are just one example among many great successes.
We spoke on net metering a little bit. The benefits for net metering really in Indiana are major cost savings for the district, speed of design and implementation of the systems. Millions of dollars can be saved over the life of the system through net metering, and that's why it's so important. Senate Bill 309 is something that came about in 2017, was a major reason why Michigan City when implemented the solar in 2017, is they're going to enjoy 30 years of net metering. After 2017 or 2018 implementation, districts have until 2022 to install a solar system to realize the remaining balance of net metering, which ends in 2032. So really we have until June of 2021 to implement the interconnection agreements for the solar to get those systems in before the end of the year of 2022. So again, net metering is a very important piece of the solar, and if you're interested in solar, really now's the time to do it with the long process of getting the solar installed and approved through the school district.
At Performance Services, we continue to help K-12 schools explore solar. We've been doing this for a little over 2 decades now and have ample solar experience to share with your teams. We've now completed more than 62 systems for 28 different customers with more than 32 megawatts of solar installed. And just to give you a quick geographic slide or kind of picture of where we've installed these in the state, you can kind of tell there's a wide range of schools that we've installed solar for. This works not only in southern Indiana, northern Indiana, northwest Indiana. The good news is pretty much in our state, there's a good solar resource. So if there is interest, or if your district has interest, we can certainly support you in evaluating that. And as we conclude, we hope this presentation and the Michigan City story has provided you some insight on how solar and LED can benefit your school district. If you have any additional follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to us. I want to thank everybody for their time today. Would like to thank Michigan City Schools for the opportunity to share their story. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep fighting for our schools. Thank you.